welcome everyone. My name's Lizzie Mason. I am the PBS Specialist Practitioner for the London and South area of the National Autistic Society Adult Services. And I'm going to talk to you today about capable environments. Our aim and objectives, so to recognise what capable environments are and understand why they're important, to list the key areas within capable environments, to explain how capable environments are used to improve the quality of life for people we support, and to illustrate how capable environments can be embedded within assessment and support processes alongside other evidence-based approaches. So just thinking about kind of capable environments, what I'm going to do first is get us to just think about our current understanding of behaviour that challenges. So all behaviour, including behaviour that challenges, should be understood in the context of the internal and the external environment. So factors within and around the person and their support, people who support them and care for them. So when we're thinking about factors within, we're thinking about factors like their thoughts, their feelings, physical and mental health, the skills that they have, their strengths, their weaknesses, how much they might understand about what's going on around them. When we think about the external environment, we're thinking about the physical and social world around them. So it might be how people interact with people, how noisy or busy the physical environment is. And all of these factors work together to influence how people respond, so how they behave in a specific situation, and whether they're likely to repeat that action again or not. And by understanding the context in which behaviour occurs and what it achieves for a person, we can reduce the need for a person to engage in behaviours that might be challenging and support them to learn other ways to get their needs met. And we can also make changes to the environment around the person, which helps promote communication, positive interaction, skill building, and engagement. So, what are capable environments? So capable environments are an environment associated with the reduced frequency and or severity of challenging behaviour. And this is a concept developed by McGill and colleagues in 2020. Actually, it was developed prior to that, but that's when that particular paper was written. So our role is to create environments that are capable rather than challenging. And I think this helps us think in a different way. So rather than thinking about how the behaviour of people we support is challenging for us, it gets us to consider how the environments that we've created might be challenging for them. It may include factors within the social, physical, and the organisational environment. So social factors might be how people interact with the person or how they communicate with the person. Physical environments might be, does the environment meet the person's sensory needs? Are the person's health needs being met? And organisational environments, do the systems within the organisation promote reflective and positive approaches? And this helps us move away from the idea of kind of fixing the individual and move it towards focusing on changing the environment around the person. And McGill and his colleagues highlight in the paper that this is based on what we know from years of research and practice and experience. So what we know about what's important to and for people and what has worked to help improve people's quality of life. So the key areas within capable environments. There are 12 key areas which focus on a mixture of direct staff support and systems level support. So I'm just going to very briefly go through the areas for those of you who aren't familiar with them. There is positive social interaction. So that's about how people interact with the person. What kind of language do they use when they talk about the person? That often tells you a lot about what they think about the person, how they engage with the person. Support for communication. So how is the person supported to effectively communicate their wants and needs? Participation in meaningful activity. So is the person offered varied activities and time to do things that they enjoy? Provision of consistent and predictable routines. So what's in place to help the person understand their day and to ensure consistent support. Maintaining and establishing relationships. So is the person encouraged to make links in their community and to develop and maintain links with their family and their friends? Encouraging independence. So how is the person supported to become as independent as possible? We want to aim to reduce people's reliance on staff or family support as much as possible. Choice. So are they encouraged to make choices in a meaningful way for them? Acceptable physical environments. So does the physical environment meet the person's physical and sensory needs? Personal care and health support. Is consistent support provided for personal care, and does the person have access to healthcare? So for those of you who were just in Dr. Peter Baker's talk before this, he raised some really interesting points about the role of management support and organisational support on staff wellbeing. And the concept of capable environments brings into this idea of, if you're going to create a capable environment around a person, you need to consider not just the direct support that they're receiving, but the support for the staff and the support for the organisation. So it also includes making sure that staff are mindful and skilled in what they do. Is there enough management support, and is there a supportive management structure in place? And is there wider organisational understanding of the importance of well-governed and evidence-based support? So that's a very, very quick summary of the paper. What McGill and his colleagues do is they outline in the paper the different areas, what you should be looking for if you go into a service or if you're working with somebody, and then also some of the research that it's come from. So the evidence that actually this is important. So this just helped me kind of think about what capable environments does. So in the centre, you've got the individual. You know, and we always want to put the person at the centre of what we do. And then we have the direct support around them, but then we also have that service level system and the organisational system as well, which surrounds them. So all of this is part of this capable environment, and all of them are kind of equally important. So why use capable environments? Well, getting the environment right, as we said earlier, at all levels, prevents and reduces challenging behaviour for individuals who have an increased risk. We know that the environment plays a significant role in the development and the maintenance of behaviours that challenge. So it's that environment that we need to look to change if we want to improve the life of people. And what has been shown is that actually it does have an impact. So it has an impact on increased quality of life for individuals. It has an impact on reduction of restrictive practices. It increases staff well-being, and overall it reduces the likelihood of placement breakdown. How I kind of see it is it's that foundation of really good support for people. That's what we want to be seeing. That's what we want for the people that we're supporting. So what I'm going to do now is think about how we've embedded capable environments in our processes at the National Autistic Society. We're still learning and developing like any organisation. We certainly aren't there yet, but we're trying, and capable environments has been really key to us in helping us kind of make progress in embedding some of the PBS processes. So what I'm going to do first is talk about PBS in the NAS and how that works, so you've got a kind of picture of how that works. So we have a national PBS team. It's made up of 11 team members across 6 areas of the UK, so separate teams that are kind of fairly spread out. And over the last couple of years, we've had this focus on building this national team and looking to ensure a consistent approach to PBS input and the paperwork, which, to be honest, hasn't been very easy because it's a very, very big organisation and there's lots of different practices. But we're getting there, and we're definitely closer than we were before. The PBS teams sit as part of our wider quality team, both nationally and within our local teams. And our quality teams include our quality assurance managers who oversee quality within services, our autism practice leads, our training and development managers, and our operational managers, so our area manager, deputy area manager. And these teams have actually been really key to expanding our ability to provide effective service level input. So when we're thinking about that kind of the mindful and skillful carers, when we're thinking about good organisational and management support, the idea of this quality team that oversees the quality within the service has been really helpful, because prior to this, we would often get stuck on the kind of implementation phase of behaviour support plans. And we would also get lots of re-referrals. So we'd do some piece of work with somebody, we'd then get them referred back in kind of 6 months' time because things weren't going well. So that team's been really crucial to changing that. We provide two main kind of types of input. So one is short-term or task-focused input. And this is primarily using spell principles or capable environments, but it may also be used to reduce risk. And it may be things like reviewing updating behaviour support plans, providing advice and support. It may be supporting around a particular event, so like a transition. It might be doing some work with a team around facilitating engagement and positive interaction or skill teaching. But capable environments have played a really key role and have helped us to develop our structure within our paperwork, our training, our support, which is effective but also fits well with some of our other organisational approaches, for example, the SPELL approach. So how have we embedded capable environments into our processes? Well, if I was to kind of summarise it, I would say that what it's done is help us structure our support in a way that fits with how we understand challenging behaviour, and also helps us to focus on positive and preventative support. And it's also really comprehensive, so it focused not just on the individual, but also on systems around that person. So it stops us getting too kind of focused on one area and then allows us to kind of see the whole picture. We've recently updated our policies and our protocol for adult services, and capable environments is explained within those policies and the key areas are listed. So that means that when staff start with us or when they're reading the policies, capable environments will be in there and they will be reading, you know, that actually this is something that we use. In terms of our preventative and short-term support that we provide, we often use capable environments as a way of helping staff reflect on the support they're providing. It can be a really good way of helping them understand what's working well for a person and where they need to perhaps develop or change the support. And it can just help structure their thinking around that and get them to think, okay, which areas of capable environments are we focusing on for this individual? We're going to look at assessment and training in a little bit more detail. Now, so in terms of our assessment process, so we often start our assessment with a focus on capable environments. Obviously, this is part of an assessment. We'd use it alongside other functional assessment approaches, but we'll start with that focus on capable environments and on SPELL. We would use interviews and observations, and we gather information from the individual themselves, from staff and from family. So all of those kind of key stakeholders who are involved with the person. And we use a what's working or what's not working approach or areas for development approach. So identifying what's going really, really well in terms of capable environments for that person, and then where we want to make changes, where we want to kind of do some work. Often we'll do formal observations within the services or with the individual, where we'll be thinking, okay, which areas are we focusing on? And we also sometimes will do whole service assessments. So we'll look at the whole service rather than a particular individual. And okay, what's going well in terms of those key areas of capable environment. And this particularly helps us identify any kind of service level supports we might need. So are there any training gaps which the autism practice lead or the training team might be able to help with? We might be able to identify an individual's health support, something that's not been met, and then that can be flagged to the quality team and more support can be provided. What I found personally is that it just helps me to structure that assessment information that you gather, that sometimes you just don't quite know what to do with, because it's what you see when you go into a service, when you're observing, and it's a really useful way of structuring that. So I've put some useful tools on here. So the Capable Environments Assessment Recording Form is based off the McGill paper, and that's basically a list of the key areas, what you'd be looking for when you go in and do an observation, and then you just kind of note down, okay, what's working and what areas to develop, and we often include those within our assessments. I've also included the so on the page here is the Capable Environments Checklist, which I stole from the Sorry Coaches programme. Thank you very much to them. So this is a kind of really quick checklist that you can do with services just to get them thinking about, okay, what's the quality of the support that we're providing somebody like. So you've got it on the page here, but it asks questions like 80% of the staff team state that they like the person. Staff encourage and provide opportunities for choice making. So it's quite simple, quite brief, but it helps staff teams identify actually where do we need to improve our support. And then there's some other key tools which we've used, particularly for service level support. So where we're looking at a whole service, and they focus very particularly on kind of key areas within capable environments and within SPELL. So those are the foundations of good support document and what does good look like, which are by United Response and United Response and TISARD. And those are quite similar in that they do that kind of what's working areas to develop, but on a more service level approach. I've got links to those at the end of the talk, so if you need to access them. So what I'd like to take you through is just an example. So let's meet P. P is a cheerful young woman who loves sensory play and music. P was referred following concerns about high levels of self-injury and physical aggression towards staff. And there was also a concern that she was being isolated from other people due to her sensory needs. She had quite sensitivity to noise. So it was quite difficult to kind of have her very close to other people, because if they made an unexpected noise, she would engage in self-injury. Her main form of communication was body language, facial expression and eye contact. And she had a PBS plan in place when the referral was made, but it needed updating. So what we did was, as part of the functional assessment, we went in and did observations focusing on the environment around her. And that was alongside other functional assessment tools, so momentary time sampling, focusing on engagement, ABC narrative recording, focusing on the context of her self-injury and physical aggression, incident analysis, interviews with staff. And this is what we found, this is just under the positive interaction and engagement sections of the capable environment, and these were the kind of key for her. So P likes to be around others and will initiate being in the main area rather than the side room. She has particular people she will sit near and engage with. She uses lots of praise. Staff use lots of praise when engaging with P. She has a good relationship with her staff team and they speak positively about her. They consistently used intensive interaction when engaging with P, and P is provided with sensory activities during the day, so pens and scarves. And then we worked with the staff to identify these key areas to develop. So during sessions, staff were often sat at some distance from P. So she would be sat on the floor and she would be engaging with particular objects and items, but the staff would be sat kind of on a chair further away from her. The staff weren't always fully focused on engaging with P, and staff didn't always engage with her at her level. So quite often staff were sat on chairs or on the sofa while she was on the floor. And there wasn't a huge amount of variety in her activities. So she was often doing the same thing over and over again. So what we established from this was that there was a real kind of challenge around her communication and interaction, and primarily that staff weren't always able to pick up on her attempts to communicate because they either weren't close enough or they weren't on the same level as her. So what we did was work with the staff team to understand the importance of being near her so that they could respond at all attempts at communication and then provide that interaction. And we taught staff how to do this while staying safe. So making sure that they weren't at risk of physical aggression. We modelled how to interact with her at her level. And we also did some work organising the environment so that the activities were clearly available to staff. One of the issues that came up around the activities was that actually, because they needed to be with her all the time, if they didn't have the activity readily available, they would just go with what they had, which was usually the pens or the scarf. So it was hard for them to get up and go and find something. And we also increased the number of activities that she did based on some preference assessments that we did. So actually, just from making some changes around the positive interaction and the engagement side, we were able to make some quite significant reductions in challenging behaviour and improve P's quality of life. In terms of the self-injury, we had a reduction from around 25 incidents a day to around a couple a week. So it was a fairly kind of significant change for her and for her staff team. So just want to show you our PBS plans. So we've incorporated capable environments into our PBS plans, and we use the capable environments headings to structure our proactive sections of the PBS plans. This kind of helps us ensure that we're providing comprehensive support and that areas of support aren't missed. Recently, we've been reviewing some plans, and as we've audited them, we've realised that there were actually gaps in support. And I think the only reason we've kind of done that is because we've used this approach. Otherwise, we might not have noticed that there were gaps. And we were then able to go back to the service and do some further assessment. We include in the plan information about how we're going to skill up the staff and help them to work reflectively and positively, but we wouldn't necessarily put into the plan the wider systems level support. That would be action through the quality team. So just thinking about training. So we've embedded capable environments. As you can see, we have it quite kind of at the forefront of our PBS plans and assessments. So it kind of makes sense that it's in our training so that our staff are aware of it. So we've embedded it within our training packs. We provide induction training for all support staff who come into the organisation. And in that induction training, we outline what capable environments are, why they're important, and then we go through kind of key areas of the capable environments. And I'll show you a case study in a minute from how we do that. We also provide training in PBS for managers, which we then also review capable environments and get them to do an example checklist. So get them to do that for somebody they support. And thinking probably more widely about the service in terms of what's working and what areas there are for development. We also provide training in practice leadership and in active support training, because actually if you think about the areas within capable environments, those two areas of training are really key. You know, practice leadership links into that, mindful, skillful carers, management support, and then active support training is kind of fundamental for the, you know, meaningful engagement, providing structure. So those are provided within the services as well. So I'll just take you through an example case study that we do within our training, just to give you an example of how that works. I'm not going to read through it, but what we would do is provide a case study. I've kind of tried to highlight here some of the key areas. So we provide information about how the person communicates, what's working well in particular areas and what's not working so well, and then what the behaviour of concern is, because we ask the trainees in groups to identify the function of the person's behaviour. So we give them information about that. We give them information about how the person communicates and what's happening, the context around the behaviour. And then what we do is ask them to look at the example and think about which two areas of capable environments they would initially be wanting to focus on for that individual if they were supporting them, and to take from that, okay, what's working well for the person. So it might be, in that particular case, it was that staff had actually put in place a rota around doing daily chores, and then also what further strategies could they identify for the team that the team could use in the future. So just kind of going full circle in terms of once we've put the plans in place, we've done training with staff, just thinking about how we kind of provide training on the behaviour support plans and monitoring implementation and how that links in with capable environments. So there's a recognition within the McGill et al. 2020 paper that practice leadership and ongoing support and monitoring is an important element of ensuring consistent and long-term support. So we use what we call skill checkers, positive monitoring forms, competency assessments, different names, same thing, with the aim of kind of checking that the behaviour support plan's been implemented as it's been written. And quite often what we will do is check the kind of key areas of capable environments that have been identified as key for a person. So you don't want your skill checkers to be really, really long. You have to kind of prioritise key things, and quite often that will be those key areas of capable environments. We'll do quizzes on the behaviour support plan, again, often focusing on those key areas of capable environments. And then I've just given you an example here of a periodic service review. So this is useful for staff teams where the service is looking to develop their practice, and what we ask them to do is identify one focus from each of the 10 direct support areas, so the 10 kind of areas of capable environments, and then to go through, so what do they want to do, so what should staff be doing within that area, when do you want the action to be carried out, who has the responsibility for carrying the action out, and how are you going to check that that action's being carried out. And those can be really helpful for teams to just kind of improve that quality of the practice within their services. So I said I was going to do it in half an hour, and I did, pretty much. So in summary, we've got time for questions. Capable environments have been really important in helping us practically structure our support and ensuring it's proactive, effective and comprehensive. It was only as I was going through kind of developing this that I realised that we may appear slightly obsessed with capable environments. I really personally love it. I think that it's a great way of just having that really comprehensive approach and way of looking at support. It's probably how my brain works, but but it just fits really nicely with it. And it fits really well as part of providing quality support. It provides really well as part of a functional assessment, and it's really person-centred. So we see it as crucial for ensuring the best outcomes for the people that we support every day.